Shabbat Shalom, everybody. This is Rabbi Stephen, Rav Shmuel. Hope you're doing well. And again, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Yeah, different look. Okay, this is it going forward, folks. They're actually bifocals, and I actually kind of like them. Uh, just kind of FYI, went off and got these clips, these clip-on sun they make these into sunglasses, little clip-on lenses, and they're pretty cool because then I don't have to. I mean, I have another pair of sunglasses, but it's really nice to be able to use them, all purpose. So good stuff. All right, so hope you're doing well. And for those of you that missed it, we had a great Tu B'Shvat. Tu B'Shvat. What is Tu B'Shvat? And Tu B'Shvat, by the way, starts what in my mind is kind of like a whole string of spring festivals, kind of like the spring high holidays. So Tu B'Shvat is the new year for trees. It is basically just a day. That's really ultimately all it is. Isn't even in the Torah. It was discussed in the Talmud. Hillel wanted it to be the 15th of Shabbat. Shammai thought it should be the first, but that's basically when the major rains have stopped and everything's growing now and we're good to go. But the idea of a Tu B'Shvat, as we discussed, is that it's when they started counting down, the years. The tree has to stay fallow for 3 years. And then in the fourth year, its produce goes, to the Kohanim and the Levites as an offering. And after that, 90% is yours. It's the usual tithe, the tenth of an offering to the Kohanim. It's Kohanim and the Levites, going forward. So why Tu B'Shvat? Where'd they get that name? Well, Shvat is the month. Two is the number 15. You have a tet, which is kind of like this, looks kind of like this. It's a t sound. And then you have the vav, which is this, which is a v sound. But that vav is also used to make an o vowel and an u vowel. Taf, u, and that's 6. So tet is 9. Vav is 6. 9 and 6 is 15. So why do we use 9 and 16? Why not just use 10 and 5? And of course, the ancient Hebrews used the Aleph Bet as a way to denote number as well. Aleph is the first letter, so it's number 1. Bet is the second letter, so it's number 2. And, all the way up to Tet, which is 9. And of course, Vav was 6. And Yud is 10. And Hey is 5. So why not use Yud? And Hey is kind of a broken letter. It kind of looks a little like this. Well, because in this particular portion, Yitro, we have Moses going up to Mount Sinai and getting the 10 Commandments. And the second commandment, as those of you remember, is you don't use God's name in vain. Now, some people say, oh, you don't say, damn it or darn it. But it goes really a lot further than that. That's actually very trivial. You don't use God's name in vain to make a vow or an oath or to swear on something. Like I swear that there's a box of tissues on this desk. It's absurd. It's so trivial. Why are you swearing in God's name for that? It's dumb. It's So to take, and now Yud, which is the 10th letter, and it's 10, and it's kind of a short letter. Again, a 10 and 5, a Yud and a Hey actually spells the word Yah, which is a name of God. So you wouldn't use the name of Hashem for something as trivial as denoting a number. So we use 2. So we have Tu B'Shvat in a month now. We're going to have Purim, which is the 15th of the month of Adar. And then a month from now, we have the month of Aviv, the month of Nisan, the middle of the month, Passover. Then we count the Omer, the barley offering for 7 weeks times 7 weeks. We come up to Shavuot, which is when Moses went and got the 10 Commandments, which is happening this week. So, remarkable about this week is that as you have been following along, know that in conservative Judaism, we don't read the whole parsha. The conservative movement decided, the Rabbinical Assembly decided a few years ago that the parsha takes a long time. It's a little troubling. It's tough to remember. If you really want to do it right, which is pronounce all the letters and do the cantillations, it's either a lot of work or you're going back and forth between, looking at the Chumash and pointing in the Torah, or some people point, you have another person reading. They said, you know what, let's just divide it up into thirds. And there's a precedent for this because years and years ago, when they started reading the Torah, they wouldn't read it over a full year. They read it over a 3 year period. So they divided the Torah into 3 years worth of sections instead of the yearly sections that we do now. In this particular portion, Jethro, the triennial cycle, the triennial one cycle, we're in the first year, in this year, 5783, is actually the full Parsha. So we're reading the full Parsha. And the reason we read the full Parsha is so that we can always read the Ten Commandments, which are at the end of the Parsha. It's in the sixth Aliyah, toward the end of the Parsha. You wouldn't want to read this portion divided up into thirds. You'd always want to have that particular part of the Parsha, of the section of the Torah that we're reading. So what do? Do you just read the same third over and over again each year? Then you're missing the beginning of this portion, which is very significant. It's really the beginning of modern business practices of delegation. We have Jethro, who was Moses' father-in-law, comes and he congratulates Moses. He said, wow, it's wonderful. What happened? I heard, God is it. And the sages and the commentators say that, well, Jethro was not just a chieftain, a Midianite chieftain, he was also a priest. And back then, the head of the tribe filled both functions. And he had experimented with different religions, most of them, actually almost all of them, being pagan, some superstition. But he saw that this one Hashem, what God did for the Israelites, he said, you know what, I'm convinced I'm going to be Jewish. Or back then, whatever they described themselves as, Israelites or ethical monotheism, whatever. And there is a discussion, if you look at some of the verbiage in the Parsha, that alludes to the fact that he spent some time there and he went into him and he became circumcised and he went into the mikvah and voila, in goes a pagan, out comes a Jew, right? So that's something that Jethro decided to take on himself. But Moses is sitting there with this string of people, and I tell the joke, and I said, Jethro looked at him and said, what is the who getting back together or what? All these people. And Moses says, no, I'm the prophet. I'm the one that basically communicates with God. So people come to me, for conflict resolution, for teaching Torah, for guiding them, any disputes, et cetera, et cetera. And Jethro said, this is ridiculous. You're going to wear yourself out and you're going to get so tired, you're not going to be any use to anybody. Why don't you delegate? Why don't you choose elders? And this is very important, that have, I want to say no interest in money, but good luck with that. But just people that have enough money, that don't really feel the need to have more money. Therefore, they can't be bribed. They won't be bribed. They won't be swayed one way or another. They'll be able to objectively adjudicate cases. And Moses says, that's great, we'll do that. Now, here's where I find fault with this. There are commentators that fault Moses for doing this. Say, look, you're the prophet. You're the one that communicates with God the way we humans, we mortals, talk to each other. You're not giving these people the benefit of your doubt and of your prophecy, and that's not a good thing. Okay, but let's go back to what Jethro said. The words of the Torah are the words of the Torah. You read the Torah, there's nothing in there that faults Moses for doing this. It's just basically cut and dry, delegate. We got CEO, we got executives, we got middle managers, we got supervisors, and then we got the workers. That's allocating. That's smart business. That's a way, to carry out from the bottom, from the top to the bottom. So there's really nothing in there that really faults Moses. That's the first thing. The second thing, think of it this way. By Moses having other people, by delegating these judgments to these other people, what would he have to do? He would have to teach them Torah, right? So he's empowering the elders. He's empowering these people to Torah. And these people are passing along Moses' word, God to Moses to them anyway. So I don't personally see the conflict, from God to Moses to the chiefs, here we go, of chiefs of thousands, chiefs of hundreds, chiefs of 10, the adjudicators. And by the way, we've all heard the term centurion as part of the Roman rank. And basically, where did they get the word centurion? A centurion was an officer who was in charge of 100 troops. So That's where they get that from. So, and of course, this is all metric system. People who oversaw thousands, hundreds, and tens. And now we've got that today. We've got the Beit Din. What is the Beit Din? It's a court of three. So even today, we're saying, hey, Jethro, good thinking. That's why you're the chieftain. Good idea. So, and in having to adjudicate these cases, and usually it's either three rabbis or there's a rabbi and two elders, but there's always a rabbi in there. You always need somebody like me that's studying, that continues to study, that knows Torah. That way, in case anybody gets stuck, they can always, Rabbi, what's the halacha here? Halacha, good word, comes from the word halech, which means to go. You have law, you go forward. Okay, so thank you for listening once again, Jethro. Looking forward to seeing you at services or whatever. Love your feedback, and some of you have given that to me, and I certainly enjoy it. Have a good week, Shavuot Tov, and Shabbat Shalom, and we will see you soon.